I'm John Oetjens, and welcome to Schooling Around. When you go out for a Sunday drive these days, it's not uncommon to witness everything from radio commercials to stick-in-the-ground signs advertising virtual academies. The question of authenticity seems just around the next corner. Today we visit Andrew Hulbert and Janet Schell, the two folks in charge of the Oxford Virtual Academy. We're going to explore the history of virtual ed and what to watch for now. Stay tuned.
Drownings are a leading cause of death for young children. Make sure kids learn how to swim. Always watch them in and around water and properly fence all pools. Simple steps save lives. To learn some new ones, visit poolsafely.gov.
Last spring, when Oxford Virtual Academy graduates walked our stage, their director, Andrew Hulbert, started his speech with a special story about a homeless student.
So we had a young lady that I met a while back. I actually met her at a place that I would have my chiropractic done, and so she was the receptionist there. Come to find out that she was working, and she was kind of house hopping. She really did not have a permanent home to stay in. She had a broken home.
How old was she?
She was 15 or 16 at the time that we met her, and she was living on everybody's couches. And so she had no place to call home, and she was struggling. And through conversations with her, we had determined that she had never, ever had any formal education. So she had never truly sat in a brick and mortar building for probably the last 5 years. She did as an elementary student, but she was supposedly homeschooling. Well, in her mom's eyes, the homeschooling for her was she would be provided with some curriculum and told to go and do it. So there was no formal homeschooling that she was doing, the way we would see a lot of our families homeschool. So when we partnered with her and one family that really wrapped their arms around her, and so we got her to the point where she was able to come in frequently and start to do her schooling with us. And because we are a school of choice, didn't matter if she lived in district or not, we were able to bring her in and service her educational needs. So she was very determined. For a young lady that had every ball stacked against her, she was very determined to find a way to graduate and get on to college. She worked a lot of jobs. She found a way to make sure that she could really be successful. She did her homework 24/7 all through the summer. So she was determined. And I think it was 2.5 years. Two and a half years it took her to do 4 years of schooling.
One thing you can't deny about virtual ed is that it really can be of a global nature.
So a couple of years ago, we did have a family that decided that they were going to be missionaries, and even though they went to be missionaries and they were doing their education from Thailand.
Yeah, they just visited.
We never collected any federal or state dollars for them, but we continued their education anyways, because as we knew they were going to come back, they were going to come back to us. So we truly did have, and we do have students that are across the world. We do have students that still may have residency here in the state, but have moved or are staying with somebody else out of state.
Just for a season, and for whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's mission work. Dad needs to go for a couple months, but they still have their status here. And kids who travel on scholarships and internships abroad.
Next, a little background. Don't go away.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Hogan, host of a new show called Let's Get Strolling. And what I do is I interview local businesses and interesting and fun people, sometimes event planners, sometimes the residents of Oxford. Maybe next time it could be you. Join me next time on OCTV on Let's Get Strolling.
To understand virtual ed, you have to understand the people in charge. They are truly pioneers. The young Andrew Hulbert wasn't quite what you'd expect.
I was a nightmare for teachers because I was very I was not very attentive, and so I was the kid that they could never get back into a seat. And so that carried on with me, and I became bored and uninterested in high school. And so when I came out of high school, I graduated easily, but when I came out of high school, I had no desire to go to college, because schooling to me it wasn't fun. It was boring. It was everything I didn't want to do. So I went and I started my first career in retail management, and was pretty successful in that. I was traveling the country setting up Dick's Sporting Goods stores. And it was fun, exciting. I got to see a lot of the country. But you know what? I always had an emptiness that I wasn't giving back. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And so at that point, I started to take night classes. I eventually completed my first degree in biochemistry at Eastern Michigan.
Okay, now here's the guy who couldn't stay at his desk,
Yeah.
who gets a degree in biochemistry.
Yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, believe me, if many of my teachers from high school could see me today, they probably wouldn't believe that I'm the same person. Because, you know, I found some teachers that really motivated me. I really connected with some of my college teachers, college professors, and I found out that I love to learn, but I love to learn in my way, which isn't necessarily the way everybody else learns. And that's really what got me to come join the Oxford Virtual Academy, because we're making options for kids to learn in their way, and we really want them to be successful. And I don't want to see another kid go through school the way I did, that they were unmotivated and really dreaded every day. So we're creating ways for students to really engage in what is their passion, what excites them, and how it excites them.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's an independent study where they're out in the field and they're working in areas that really, you know, get their blood moving, that's what we want to do, and that's how we want to engage kids and really ignite that intrinsic motivation.
Okay, now you got this degree in biochemistry. I mean, you could have gone on to medical school.
Yeah, I could have, and the thought crossed my mind. It strongly did. I'm married to a nurse, and you know, at that time we both kind of thought that I would end up going into med school. But again, it came back to I needed to give back at whatever I did, and medical would have been that. But I really had a strong desire to go back and create an educational model that didn't exist.
Mm.
And so I became a chemistry teacher in Bloomfield Hills. Absolutely loved it. But there were times where they called me the renegade because I refused to have the status quo type of classroom. I wanted to make it. And so I started virtual down there for kids. And most of that virtual was after school or off the clock.
And then there was Janet, just a little bit more subdued.
I think for me, I was the quintessential, played school all my life, you know, dotted all my T's, did everything, you know. I was the kid that didn't want to get in trouble and very studious and was going to graduate and teach AP history. And then I ended up at Crossroads. And after my middle school experience here in Oxford, I just really connected with middle schoolers, especially troubled middle schoolers.
Where'd you go to school?
Oakland University.
Okay.
Yep, I got a history degree, love for history and passion for learning about the past, and then allowing that to help change the future and not learn, you know, that was kind of my thing. And then I knew I always wanted to teach, so because I was having a family, so I went back and got my teaching certificate, did that, you know, in the student teaching here in Oxford, and then I fell in love with Crossroads kids. And that was it. I knew that I was never going to teach AP or college. I just saw that Marty Johnson said to me, they need you more. And I recognize that people do struggle sometimes with kids who are at risk and alternative. And when you have that deep intrinsic love for kids that are maybe unlovable or difficult, I knew what I needed to do. And for me, it was, you know, it sounds hokey, but it was a calling. That was it. And so then we started Crossing Bridges. So I was there when we started that program, wrote the curriculum that summer, and then through Crossing Bridges.
I'm not familiar with Crossing Bridges. Is that the bridges that we know today?
Yeah, it was originally Crossing
Okay.
Bridges. We developed it in a partnership. Laura Farwell and I worked together with Ted Strunkel over at Upland Hills, and we created a.
When would this have been roughly?
That was the summer of 2010.
10, okay.
Yep. and we opened our doors that from nothing, not even paperclip.
Coming up, a little history.
Hi, I'm Connie from Connie's Kitchen here on OCTV, which is channel 99 on AT&T and 191 on Charter. Join us here on OCTV, join me in Connie's Kitchen, and learn to have fun in the kitchen, to relax and enjoy yourself. Come on, what'll it hurt? You'll have a good time.
Virtual ed started out to fill a special need. Andrew and Janet explain.
Well, it actually, I mean, some of it started in Alaska because they're so remote
Remote.
that they needed to be able to deliver education. You know, when there were days that you couldn't get out of the snowbanks out of your house.
And Florida too, for some reason. Florida was a big one.
And then California picked it up. So it was sporadic. But that really started in the early 2000s. Some people were dabbling with it in the late 90s. But it really didn't catch on until 2007, 8, or 9, somewhere in that range. And what they were doing, I mean, the misnomer is that you just have a kid in front of a computer. He's the robot just clicking away. And that, unfortunately, because that's really all that curriculum had back in 2006 and 7, it was just basically taking a textbook and putting it on a screen. Today, what we've done with virtual education over the last 10 years, what you would look at back then and what you look at today is not even the same curriculum.
Right.
Now you have an engaging game-like where you're provoking problem solving and critical thinking, and students are navigating through minefields and finding their way through, and it's really building their ability to be successful in life and really in college.
Well, obviously there's quite a metamorphosis there, but so initially was the reason for virtual ed the lack of local schools or the distance, like you were talking about Alaska?
Courses that, some schools wouldn't have AP or a foreign language or some other electives. I mean, even here in Oxford, I remember back years ago, it was oceanography, some electives that somebody, they had an hour where they couldn't fill, and Michigan Virtual would have a selection of electives.
Kind of reminds me of when cable TV first came out. The reason it came out was because people living in mountainous areas couldn't get the signal through an antenna.
Yep.
And look what it's turned into.
Exactly.
200 channels.
But technology, don't you think the increase in technology and how you can harness, I think what was missing is the interactiveness between the teacher and the student. The content, you have the student, but now the teachers have so many more tools than they used to have to make it more real time and engaging and personal.
Right.
Personal videos that can be recorded with their document and talked about and sent back, and the student receives it, and they're getting a personal feedback on a paper that's designed just for them. What's better than that?
We talk about the three-legged stool sometimes. You have the teacher, the student, and the curriculum. The only thing different with virtual is that you have the curriculum online and it's being delivered in that manner. For the longest time, virtual was missing that strong teacher component. So it was living on a two-legged stool. That third component is what we have really harnessed here in Oxford. We said that in order for this program to be successful and be the best program it can be for kids, we needed to increase the strength of the teacher interaction. And so we staffed, and this was against all recommendations.
But this is the beginning of the Oxford
Yes.
program.
Yeah.
So-
well into the first year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me, let's hear how that got started.
So, but I'll finish that and then I'll kind of back up
Go
a
ahead.
little bit. So for that third-legged stool, we, against all recommendations, because what I wanted to do and what we wanted to do wasn't financially the most beneficial. But we wanted to put a highly qualified teacher on every class, but have an Oxford teacher.
And what about all those signs dotting the landscape?
You always know it's August when all of these signs pop up all over every corner has 6 or 7 of these road signs trying to advertise a virtual school. Most of those are all big cyber schools that are held, mostly on the East Coast. Most of the teachers are throughout the country, and those teachers, unfortunately, are heavily loaded with students. And so they're more of an assistant to the curriculum than they are the teacher of the curriculum. And we've really made sure that our teachers have their heart and passion in their curriculum. They're giving strong feedback to those kids, because if a kid does something and they need to learn from their failures, we encourage the failures so that they can learn from it. But in order for them to truly learn from their failures, the teacher needs to help guide them through what could be done right and what could be done better. And so we've engaged the technology nowadays to truly allow the student to see the face, see the pen on the paper of the teacher helping, guiding them through problems or essays or anything of that such. And we really, that is our separation. We call it the OVA brand, the OVA family. We say that, you know, that type of feel and that type of family atmosphere is what separates us from the big.
What's a typical student schedule?
So varied. Oh, that's the thing. I think that's the misnomer. There isn't a typical student.
Yeah.
There's a group that are all virtual. That's all they do. So they get up, they have their maybe 4 to 6 hours depending on their sleep. That's why it's so very individual. Some kids get through the curriculum faster than others. So they may be anywhere from 4 to 8 hours depending on ability and processing speed. So you have those group of kids. You have some that take their 4 core and come into one of our satellite locations and take an elective course, hands-on, project-based, seated. They have a ball on that day of the week that they can go. Others may have a dual enrollment and a virtual and a seated in Oxford and a partnership.
A little of this and a little of that.
Yeah, it's really a menu. I call it smorgasbord, and you open up your menu and you get to pick and choose. There are different rules if you're full-time or part-time, but there's all kinds of options, middle school, high school, even elementary seated, virtual, partnership, dual enrollment,
But
early college.
you guys have, aren't there activities where these guys can go to field trips and stuff like that
Yes, and that's
as
where a lot of
well?
our partnerships groups
Oh,
come in.
oh, I
Our
see.
community, we have Brian's Karate here in town, we have Flip Spot Gymnastics, the Merge is one of ours. They can go and actually take a course, an elective course there and participate, do pottery, participate in karate session on a weekly basis. We
Okay.
do provide field trips through our homeschool groups. We have had some of our own. We've taken the kids down to the Henry Ford.
Every year,
yeah.
every year we have our May field trip to the zoo.
And
For
we
the-
do the zoo, yeah. So that's that socialization. People are concerned about that factor. There's a lot of research that it's key. So those that maybe cannot for health reasons, or a lot of students with anxiety we see come to our school. And it maybe the first year they're not doing anything like that, but they are engaging with their teachers and maybe other kids in maybe a small group setting. We're starting to see more of those students come out to our partnership and dabble a couple classes, but being at home, schooling at home. A lot of anxiety, a lot of depression.
And these are things that a lot of us never think about.
No, but everywhere I go, people ask me what I do, and that comes up constantly. Mom, my student, they dropped out, or they're doing online at home because they have anxiety. I think the internet has been a blessing, but there's the downside. The internet and the kids are never free from it. They can't go home and turn bullying off now.
Yeah.
It follows them, because that's what kids do. They're on Twitter and Facebook and all these sites, and they can't get away from it. They can't leave it, and it follows them to school and home. And so sometimes a kind of a blended curriculum for them works better. They have a
Yeah.
little bit of time at school and a little bit of time at home to focus. Some kids just have ADD. Drew talked about that. They're chasing rabbits all day and they can't handle. And so sometimes just having that, going at their own pace, is the best fit.
Yeah.
And others it's not. I applaud all the teachers at all our schools. They're doing a great job. There's just some kids that don't fit that model, and that's where we come in.
How large is Oxford Virtual Ed? And tell us more about the business side.
We average in between 700 and 800 students each year. 90% of them, in between 90 and 93%, don't live in Oxford.
Wow.
So we
And how many, just round figures, how many kids are in our high school right now?
1,600.
1,600?
Yeah.
So you got half as many kids as are in our high school?
Yes.
Yes, we do. Of all
But of course,
ages.
all ages, all
Yes.
grades.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about something that maybe isn't as much fun, the business of virtual education. I found it interesting that you spent a few years in retail. Did that help you out for
Yeah,
this?
absolutely.
Me too.
Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, before.
No
That
kidding.
was our lives before. We talk about that.
Really?
Yeah. Yep, owned our own, I owned with my parents a store, so, yeah.
How about that? Well, anyway,
Yeah.
So it's
You got to show a profit. You got dollars and
Absolutely.
cents are
Yeah.
definitely part of the picture.
But customer service, and he'll talk
Absolutely.
about that. To us, that's more important than anything.
So
Yeah.
education, unfortunately, in Michigan has become a competitive nature. Everybody's competing for dollars and cents, and those dollars and cents come in student heads. And that's the reality of the world we live in today.
Yeah.
So I had mentioned earlier that it was not highly recommended to build a format or a formula that we did. We believed that the more we invested in the program, the more we would help students. And the byproduct of that would be we would see an enrollment increase that would allow us to continue that pathway. So we wanted to build that product. We wanted to be the Apple of virtual education, not due to size, but we wanted that formula to be everybody wants to come there. We talk about the why. There's the golden circle in the why. Our why is to reach kids and give them options and allow them to be successful. And we committed to reinvesting that money into the program. Now, our profit margins are less than, say, another district that's trying to do it on the cheap. But we and sometimes we joke about this, but we make it up in volume. Because by creating this product that is so well-versed and meets the needs of students, the word of mouth spreads, and we start to see the enrollment increase, and we allow then the profit margins. The margins don't necessarily change, but the overall dollars will increase.
Yeah. Well, as before, you found yourself going around to different retail stores. Now you're actually visiting other school districts, aren't you?
We've this year we're actually starting a consortium of school districts around the state that we're starting to share common practices. We're sharing the purchasing of licenses so that we can do bulk rates, so that we can decrease our cost, and then also collaborate and increase the services around the state for kids. Now, again, that doesn't necessarily help our bottom line because we're helping somebody else build the model we've built. But
We believe in that,
ultimately,
though. We believe in that model, and that's the key, is that's what he's done, is he has a model that he believes in, and he won't compromise. We're never go to clicker.
no.
Ever.
And we want to see others do that. We want other districts to reinvest and really build quality for kids.
Next, we look at changes through the years and the addition of another school.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
A lot has changed since the birth of Oxford Virtual Ed, not the least of which was the addition of Crossroads last year.
That summer, they spent numerous hours, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, building what they wanted to start that September. And they were aiming for 30 kids, and they got 150. So it started, and Janet went back to Crossing Bridges to be a teacher there. And so things really started to explode. And at that point, Dr. Skilling had called me in Bloomfield and asked if I would come and be a part of this.
He heard about this rogue teacher that was doing interesting things.
And you weren't involved in any kind of virtual ed over there, were you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, a little bit.
I used to see his name
I was
on
gonna say-
rosters of online teachers. Yeah.
So, Andrew, do you know how to turn on a computer?
Yeah.
Come on over.
Dr. Skilling and I had never met, and I got a phone call from him while I was actually teaching in class in Bloomfield. And he had heard my name through the grapevine. And
Bloomfield Summer School, correct?
Yes.
Bloomfield Summer School.
So he had asked for me to come be a part of this, and so then, that year we brought Janet back because she had gone to Crossing Bridges, and we said, no way, she's coming back. We have to.
She crossed the bridge the other way.
Across
Yeah.
the bridge, and that was painful, but we ended up was we had a kind of a perfect with Kat Karen, our operations supervisor, Drew, and I. It's just it's a complementary administrative team. Same philosophy is the same, but we all have strengths that in the week support each other. So it's been a really good.
So we all
Really
have
good
different
fit.
tools in our toolbox,
Yep.
and we believe that the three of us really kind of give us a nice toolbox that has all the tools that we
Yeah.
need.
And then came Crossroads, and that was just a year or so ago. That was another new challenge, wasn't it, that you guys
Taking it
helped get
back.
straightened out?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Shelley Chapman over there is the principal, and she's doing a phenomenal job. We have been able to help her with some of the blended curriculum that they're implementing over there. And it's been exciting to see, because we're dying to now move our district eventually to a blended model, where we can incorporate the seated model and the virtual, and students can have those type of options so that we can reach all kids in Oxford.
I asked Andrew and Janet to look into the future and tell us what they would like to see with virtual ed.
I want to see a lot of our kids, more of our kids that are falling through the cracks, because the statistics still are not good. How many kids are dropping out, and that bothers me tremendously.
When
And
you
there's
say
no-
dropping, you mean high school,
dropping out of
grade
high
school?
The dropout rate, Drew, I don't know if you know it, it's still pretty high. It's unacceptable to me, but, and then our foster system, because virtual education can we service our homeschool crowd now. I think we've gotten pretty good at that. We're still always trying to learn and adapt and do better to meet their needs. We have kids who have health issues. We're doing our best to match their needs. Some parents just they want out of the public school system, but they don't know how to. They think they want out, but this is a way they can school at home. So we're able to give them curriculum and teacher support, but they can have it in their home. I don't know, there's fear out there a lot of times. Common Core was a big deal. There's just a lot of different reasons. So I want that earned marketing, people that you tell a friend, they tell a friend, so that all kids can have this opportunity. There's even kids that are sitting in a high school today that may be in another district that they're just not, like what Drew talked about, they're disengaged. And it's a shame, because there's so many great modern tools for the 21st century learner. They don't have to be disengaged anymore. They can come in part of the day and leave. They can come in for their auto tech or whatever. And they could come in for an independent study once a month and work with an awesome teacher, and design a curriculum that they're out maybe doing a web building for a company. We have kids that build websites. But a lot of them are homeschooling. Now these kids can do that and be a full-time student in Oxford.
Some interesting thoughts about skilled trades.
Virtual part is the book part. So a lot of the times when you have trade skills, you have the hands-on part and you have the educational part. Many times they set up the programs that you have the classroom time and you have the application time.
Can be delivered online.
Yep, the classroom time then becomes
And then you
your
just meet with
virtual.
a mentor teacher. I mean, Ann Arbor's been doing that for years at
Oh, is that
Community
right?
High. Yeah, you can form these partnerships or internships. And the kids come in, they have their online curriculum, it's monitored, it's vetted by the school district, and they can learn elective credit.
Can local business people become involved in that sort of thing, as
Absolutely.
far as the hands-on sort
We
of?
wish that more of the community.
We
partner
need
with
more
schools.
individuals to be that hands-on portion. We can cover the classroom time virtually, but the hands-on time, we need partners in the community
Yeah.
to really help us with that.
Take kids under their wing and, heating and cooling people, drywall people, carpet layers, you name it. They're dying for people.
Right.
But so many kids are going off to college or dropping out and they don't have the skills.
Our visit ended with a wish from Director
I want
Hulbert.
to make sure that for your viewers, we clear up the misnomer that we are for just dropouts or dropout prevention.
Correct.
We have a lot of students that are so advanced that we have sixth graders taking college courses, and we reach the entire spectrum of students, from the at-risk to the individuals that have gotten a 34 on the ACT and are off to high level colleges. And so we really we fit all ages and all grades and all skill levels. And you had asked what we want to see for the future. We really want to become that model that fits all kids and every kid that can fit into what we're doing. And we want to be able to share that model. We really want to go out and we want to help set up new programs to look and feel similar to what we do, because we have seen success for kids. And I've had an opportunity to start working with the Michigan Department of Education in regards to some of those ideas, and hopefully we'll see some of that growth coming out soon.
Andrew Hulbert, Director of the Oxford Virtual Academy. Thanks to Gabriel Oetjens behind the camera, Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, Kyle Snage at the controls, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.